Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a war film from Norway, Norwegian language English subs, released in the year 2023, directed by Henrik Martin Dalsbakken, and this film is called The Arctic Convoy. So The Arctic Convoy is set during World War II. Adolf Hitler has invaded the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union need to be resupplied. So these cargo ships, civilian cargo ships from Iceland, make the perilous journey through to the Soviet Union in order to resupply them with guns and food. But unfortunately, German warships are around, and also German planes. So it's a very perilous journey, but they're being protected by an escort from the British Air Force. And so halfway through this perilous journey, the escort is disbanded for reasons that are not given, and now this convoy are sitting ducks to German warplanes. And so now the captain of this particular ship this film is set in has to make the decision. Does he go through to the Soviet Union because he doesn't want to be seen as a coward, or does he actually go back to Iceland and live to see another day and also get back to his family? And so the decision he makes really contradicts the decision that the crew want, and this creates a little bit of turmoil within the ship. But unfortunately, the reality is they have to make the decision quickly, otherwise they may never return. So whether or not that's the case is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Arctic Convoy. World War II history is absolutely fascinating, but when it comes to this part of this era, Norwegian participation and the Norwegian aspect of the war is something that I'm not completely familiar with, and so whenever I see a movie based on this, I definitely have to go and see it. So number one, it's a Scandinavian film. Number two, it's a war film. So combining those two together, I had massive expectations for what this movie would deliver. So fingers crossed that this would be absolutely fantastic, and after watching The Arctic Convoy, that's exactly what it was. This was absolutely fantastic. This is a film about bravery, and it's a movie about everyday people just doing the right thing, and also a movie about decisions, very difficult decisions, and the idea that if you look like a coward, is that worse than death? And so to me, I just thought to myself, there was a lot of turmoil in the air in this film, and there's a lot of discussion, and it's the importance of having one particular leader, because if you have more than one leader or more than one person with a voice, this is where the contradictions can start to come in, and this is where the psychological warfare really implements itself in this experience. And so on one hand, you have an action film that I thought was completely thrilling, but you also had a character drama where these people were faced with really tough decisions. And so that whole film was made to a level that is typical of Scandinavia. The script was absolutely fantastic. They painted really, really good characters within this ship. I thought as though it had a brotherhood. They were all very close to each other, so when horrible things happened, I really felt the pain. The acting was absolutely fantastic, but the script is where this film really succeeds, because without a really solid script, this movie wouldn't work. So the action is sporadic, but when the action's not taking place, you're invested in actually what's going on within these confines of this ship. And so it's a cargo ship. These are everyday people. They didn't need to do this, but it's the heroics of humanity in really tough situations. So inhumane events are taking place, and it takes people to really step up to the plate and show courage. And this is about the human spirit. And the human spirit in this movie, I thought, was very moving. This is a film that reminded me of Das Boot, which is the classic Wolfgang Petersen German movie about a submarine. I thought that movie was fantastic, and there's a lot of elements in this movie that remind me of that film. So it's a completely different movie, but I just thought as though it really had that same level of suspense and the same level of humanity. This is a film not so much about war, it's about people in really extreme situations. And so it was actually, as I said, it was very heartwarming, and there were moments that are actually quite sad, very depressing, because of the fact it put its time and attention into actually creating people, not just the cannon fodder, not just people waiting to be slaughtered. This is not a straight out action film where it's all about the choreography and all about the special effects. This is a movie about humanity, and that's what I love the most. I thought the setting inside the ship was very claustrophobic, and when they realise what they're up against, when this escort disbanded, they're sitting ducks. And so the vast shots of the ocean really symbolised that isolation that they were feeling. And this movie relies a lot on its sound effects and the action sequences, which is very similar to Dunkirk. Dunkirk, when I saw that in the cinema, the sound effects were just as scary as actual actually what you were seeing. And so that sense of anticipation really hits you hard, and the anticipation in this movie was fantastic. You could hear the German warplanes, but you couldn't see where they were coming from. And so the scenes show you that sense of anticipation, and how hard and how rare anticipation is. People want to see explosions, people want to see what they're up against, but it's the anticipation that's the scariest part. And it's the scariest part of this film because, as I said, you really care about what's going on. You feel as though you're part of the crew. And so it's a very dirty, grimy feel that the film has, but there's a level of beauty within the mateship, within the human connections, and the chemistry was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was cast perfectly, and the characters were all very different from each other. So you're not just waiting for them to get slaughtered, you want them to get slaughtered. And that's what creates that suspense, and that's why the action sequences work so well. So the choreography of the action was phenomenal. I thought it was very hard hitting. And again, just another indication of how good Scandinavian cinema can be. So it's a period of history that I don't know too much about, but I'm glad I watched this film because it really took me back there. I don't know whether or not it took some creative liberties. Don't get angry at me if I miss a few things in history. I know a lot of other historic films that are reviewed, a lot of people complain that, oh, you got this wrong, you got that wrong. I'm not a historian. I'm not watching a film just solely on history. I'm watching a movie based on the experience, and the experience in this film I thought was fantastic. It just didn't need bad guys and good guys. It just needed human connections, as I said. And the decisions that some people made, I thought were not very good, but the decisions made out of extremity. And so I thought that was absolutely fantastic, and I really, really like the Arctic Convoy. It has a score on IMDb that's decent, but I believe that it is a lot better than it's given credit for. So it's a very underrated war film that I would highly recommend to anyone out there. There are no real negatives to this movie. It's very fast-paced, and so it does have the action style to it, but as I said, it's the human connections that make it really work, and I'm so glad that I took the time and effort to watch this film. So overall, for the Arctic Convoy, I'm going to give this one 4 stars. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.